What if everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? Picture this. You're standing in a museum, gazing at an object labeled as a ritual artifact, maybe a strange metal disc covered in cryptic markings, or a stone cylinder with intricate grooves. For centuries, experts assumed these were sacred objects, used in ceremonies or offerings. But what if they were something far more extraordinary, hidden in plain sight, scattered across museums and archaeological sites, lie devices so advanced, so meticulously designed, they rival the precision of modern engineering. These aren't just relics of superstition, they're proof of ancient scientific mastery, waiting to be understood. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of 24 ancient devices that were long mistaken for ritual objects, but were actually crafted with astonishing mathematical precision. Think of them as the hidden blueprints of civilizations, long-gone tools that measured the stars, calculated time, or even predicted celestial events with jaw-dropping accuracy. Take the Antikythera Mechanism, for example, a 2,000-year-old bronze device discovered in a shipwreck, once thought to be a simple religious trinket. Until researchers realized it was an intricate astronomical computer, capable of tracking planetary movements with gears more complex than anything Europe would see for another millennium. How many more of these marvels have been overlooked, dismissed as mere curiosities of ancient faith? The truth is, history is full of these quiet revolutions, objects that defy our assumptions about the past. From Mesopotamian clay tablets encoding advanced geometry to Inca knotted strings that functioned as a sophisticated accounting system, these artifacts whisper a different story. One where ancient minds didn't just worship the stars, they mapped them, where ritual wasn't just about ceremony, but about unlocking the secrets of the universe. So why were these devices misunderstood for so long? Sometimes it's because their true purpose was lost to time. Other times, it's because we underestimated the ingenuity of those who came before us. But now, thanks to modern science and a fresh perspective, we're finally piecing together their incredible legacy. Get ready to see the ancient world in a whole new light. The Antikythera Mechanism isn't just an ancient artifact, it's a time capsule of genius. When divers first pulled it from a shipwreck off the Greek coast in the early 20th century, its corroded bronze fragments seemed unremarkable. For decades, it languished in a museum drawer, labeled as little more than a ceremonial object. But then, researchers peered beneath the surface, literally. Using advanced imaging technology, they uncovered a labyrinth of interlocking gears, some with teeth so finely cut they could rival a Swiss watch. This wasn't a ritual relic, it was a machine designed to model the cosmos. Imagine turning a hand crank and watching tiny dials spin to predict the positions of the sun, moon, and planets with uncanny accuracy. The device even accounted for irregularities in the moon's orbit, a detail so nuanced it wouldn't be fully understood again until the Renaissance. Here's the staggering part. The Antikythera Mechanism dates back to around 100 BCE, a time when many assumed technology was primitive. Yet its design reveals a mastery of mathematics, metallurgy, and astronomy that feels almost out of place in history. How did the ancient Greeks engineer something so advanced without modern tools? Some scholars believe it hints at a lost tradition of scientific instruments, one that might have included other sophisticated devices lost to time. What's even more fascinating is the cultural context. This wasn't built in isolation. The same civilization that produced philosophers like Aristotle and Archimedes also crafted machines that blurred the line between science and art. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't just a calculator, it was a bridge between human curiosity and the heavens, and it forces us to ask, if this one device survived, how many others were destroyed or misunderstood? Every gear, every inscription is a whisper from the past, urging us to rethink what ancient societies were truly capable of. Now let's journey from the intricate gears of Greece to the dusty plains of Mesopotamia, where another ancient mystery defies expectations, the Baghdad Battery. Found in the ruins of a 2,000-year-old Parthian village, these unassuming clay jars seemed ordinary at first glance. Each one contained a copper cylinder housing an iron rod, sealed with bitumen, a setup that looked more like a protective case for sacred scrolls than anything revolutionary. But when modern scientists recreated these vessels and filled them with an acidic substance like vinegar or grape juice, something extraordinary happened. The jars produced a small but measurable electric current. Suddenly, these ritual containers took on a whole new meaning. The Baghdad batteries weren't just storage, they were power sources capable of generating enough electricity to electroplate metal objects. Imagine artisans using them to gild jewelry or apply thin layers of gold onto ceremonial items, long before the modern era understood the principles of electrochemistry. This wasn't just a fluke, the design was too deliberate. The copper and iron acted as electrodes, the acidic solution as an electrolyte, a basic but functional galvanic cell. The implications are staggering. Did ancient Mesopotamians stumble upon electroplating by accident, or was this part of a broader, forgotten understanding of electrical phenomena? What makes the Baghdad Battery so compelling isn't just its function, it's the context. This wasn't an isolated invention. The Parthians were skilled metallurgists known for intricate gold work. Could they have used these primitive batteries to enhance their craftsmanship? Skeptics argue the current produced was too weak for practical use, but experiments show that connecting multiple jars in series could amplify the effect. And here's the tantalizing part. No written records survive to explain their purpose. Were they everyday tools or experimental devices meant for temple rituals? The truth may lie somewhere in between, a blend of science and symbolism, where practicality and sacred artistry intertwined. This discovery forces us to reconsider the timeline of human innovation. Electricity wasn't discovered in the 18th century, it was rediscovered. The Baghdad Battery suggests that ancient minds weren't just observing nature, they were harnessing its hidden forces. And if one civilization toyed with electrical principles, who's to say others didn't explore similar ideas? Every time we re-examine these so-called ritual objects, we uncover another layer of sophistication, another clue that the past was far more inventive than we ever imagined. The real question isn't whether they understood electricity, it's how much more they knew that we've yet to uncover. Buried in the earth for over 3,600 years, the Nebra Sky Disk looked like just another ceremonial relic when looters first unearthed it in 1999. At first glance, the tarnished bronze circle adorned with golden arcs and dots might have passed for a decorative shield or a votive offering to forgotten gods. But when archaeologists cleaned away the centuries of grime, they uncovered something far more extraordinary, a precise celestial map frozen in metal. This wasn't just art, it was a sophisticated astronomical instrument, one that captured the rhythms of the cosmos with breathtaking clarity. What makes the disk so remarkable are those tiny gold inlays. Each one placed with deliberate intent, a cluster of 7 stars almost certainly representing the Pleiades, a crescent moon, and a radiant sun, or perhaps a full moon flanked by curved bands marking the solstices. Together, they form a working model of the heavens, a tool that could predict the changing seasons or signal the optimal time for planting and harvest. Imagine holding this disk aloft under the night sky, aligning its markers with the real constellations above. For the Bronze Age people who crafted it, this wasn't just decoration. It was a bridge between earth and sky, a way to harness celestial patterns for survival. The precision here is what stuns modern researchers. The angles between the solstice arcs match the exact positions of the sun's movements at that latitude in northern Europe. Even more intriguing, the disk appears to encode a subtle astronomical trick. The Pleiades' position relative to the moon may have helped synchronize lunar and solar calendars, correcting for the mismatch between the two systems. This level of understanding suggests a culture deeply attuned to the cosmos, one that didn't just observe the stars but quantified their movements. Yet the Nebra Sky Disk raises as many questions as it answers. Why was it buried with swords and axes in a hilltop cache, as if hidden away for safekeeping? Was it the treasured possession of a priest astronomer or a communal tool for an entire village? And perhaps most tantalizing of all, how widespread was this knowledge? The disk's design shares striking similarities with megalithic solar observatories like Stonehenge, hinting at a shared astronomical tradition across ancient Europe. This artifact shatters the myth that prehistoric societies were solely focused on survival or superstition. The hands that shaped the Nebra Sky Disk didn't just worship the heavens, they decoded them. Every gold inlay is a testament to human curiosity, a reminder that the drive to understand the universe is as old as civilization itself. And it leaves us wondering how many other ceremonial objects gathering dust in museum cases might hold secrets just waiting to be read. Among the most enigmatic artifacts ever discovered, the Phaistos disk sits quietly in a museum in Crete, its secrets locked behind a spiral of stamped symbols no one has ever fully decoded. Found in 1908 in the ruins of the Minoan Palace of Phaistos, this fired clay disk is roughly the size of a dinner plate, covered on both sides with 241 mysterious pictographs arranged in a tight spiral. For over a century, historians assumed it was a religious object, perhaps an incantation or a hymn to the gods. But what if those symbols aren't words at all? What if they're numbers, star charts, or even instructions for something far more practical? The mystery starts with the symbols themselves. Unlike linear A or B, the writing systems of ancient Crete, the Phaistos disk's characters appear to be unique, stamped into the clay with individual seals, making it one of the earliest examples of movable type in history. Some researchers argue the symbols represent syllables or an early form of writing, while others see a deliberate numerical or astronomical code. One compelling theory suggests the disk might be a calendar, with each symbol marking lunar cycles or agricultural events. The spiral arrangement could even mimic the movement of celestial bodies, turning the disk into a portable observatory. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Recent computer analyses have revealed patterns in the symbol sequences that resemble mathematical repetitions like a cipher or an early algorithm. Imagine a Minoan priest or scholar using the disk to calculate planting seasons or predict eclipses. The symbols might not just record information, they could process it, turning the disk into a kind of analog computer. And if that's true, it wouldn't be alone. The disk shares eerie similarities with other Bronze Age artifacts, like the Nebra Sky Disk, hinting at a shared language of science across ancient cultures. Yet the Phaistos disk refuses to give up its secrets easily. Without a bilingual inscription or a Rosetta Stone equivalent, every decoding attempt remains speculative. Some scholars propose it's a game board or a political treaty, while others insist it's a musical composition. But perhaps the most tantalizing possibility is that it's all of these things, a multifunctional tool blending math, astronomy, and ritual into a single object. After all, in the ancient world, the line between science and spirituality was often blurred. What makes the disk so captivating isn't just its undeciphered message, but what it reveals about the Minoans themselves. This was a civilization capable of constructing sprawling palaces with advanced plumbing, vibrant frescoes, and intricate trade networks. If they could engineer such sophistication, why not a device to encode knowledge? The Phaistos disk challenges us to rethink the boundaries of ancient innovation. Every time a new theory emerges, it peels back another layer, reminding us that some of history's greatest puzzles are still waiting to be solved. And until that day comes, the disk remains a silent witness to a lost world of ingenuity. Deep within the Temple of Hathor at Denderah, a series of carvings etched into the ancient stone walls have ignited one of archaeology's most electrifying debates. At first glance, the images seem to show strange, bulb-like objects, elongated vessels with snaking tendrils resembling filaments, each cradled by a figure who appears to be tending to them. To modern eyes, they bear an uncanny resemblance to light bulbs, complete with what could be wires and sockets. But how could a civilization from over 2,000 years ago have conceived of electric lighting, let alone harnessed its power? One school of thought argues these carvings depict actual technological devices, proto-light bulbs powered by some lost method of generating electricity. Proponents point to the Baghdad Battery as evidence that ancient cultures might have understood basic electrical principles. They imagine temple priests illuminating sacred chambers with glowing orbs, banishing the darkness through means we've yet to fully comprehend. The carving's precision only fuels this theory. The bulbs are meticulously detailed with internal structures that defy simple symbolic interpretation. Could the Denderah reliefs be blueprints for a forgotten invention, a glimpse into an alternate path of technological progress? Yet skeptics offer a different reading. To them, the carvings are purely symbolic, part of Egypt's rich tradition of allegorical art. The bulbs might represent the lotus flower, a sacred symbol of creation and rebirth, with the tendrils depicting serpents emerging from its petals, a motif seen elsewhere in Egyptian iconography. The figures holding them could be deities like Harsomptos, often depicted as a serpent ascending from a lotus, symbolizing the sun's journey across the sky. In this view, the images aren't literal devices but spiritual metaphors, blending astronomy and mythology into a single visual hymn. What makes the Denderah carvings so fascinating is the tension between these interpretations. Even if they aren't literal light bulbs, their design is oddly specific, unlike anything else in Egyptian art. The way the filaments coil inward, the bulb's tapered end, the figures poses as if maintaining or activating the objects. All of it suggests something more than abstract symbolism. Could the truth lie somewhere in between? Perhaps the carvings encode a deeper understanding of natural phenomena, like bioluminescence or static electricity, observed but not yet systematized. The temple's location adds another layer of intrigue. Denderah was a center of healing and worship, where rituals often involved light and renewal. Some researchers speculate that the carvings might depict a now-lost technique for creating light using chemicals or reflective surfaces, a kind of ancient stagecraft to awe worshippers. After all, the Egyptians mastered optics with polished metals and lenses. Why not experiment with illumination? Until new evidence emerges, the carvings remain an open question, a puzzle etched in stone. But one thing is certain, they challenge us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient innovation. Whether literal or symbolic, the Denderah carvings remind us that the past is never as simple as it seems, and sometimes the most enduring mysteries are the ones that refuse to stay in the dark. In the dimly lit display case of the Cairo Museum's Egyptian Antiquities Wing, a small wooden artifact gathers dust, its significance overlooked for decades. Known as the Sakara bird, this delicate figurine, carved from sycamore wood around 2,200 years ago, looks at first glance like a simple children's toy or a symbolic offering to the gods. But tilt it just right and something extraordinary emerges. The curves of its wings, the angle of its tail fin, every contour mirrors the precise proportions of a modern glider. When engineers subjected the Sakara bird to wind tunnel tests, the results were startling. Despite its age, the figurine displayed remarkable aerodynamic properties, capable of achieving stable glide ratios with minimal adjustments. The wing's slight downward tilt, the streamlined body, these weren't artistic flourishes. They were functional design choices, the kind you'd expect from someone with an intuitive grasp of flight mechanics. So how did an artifact from 3rd century BC Egypt come to resemble an aircraft designed millennia later? One theory suggests the bird was a ceremonial object, meant to symbolize the soul's ascent to the heavens, a poetic idea, but one that doesn't fully explain its engineering. Another possibility, it was a prototype. Ancient Egyptians were keen observers of nature, and the desert's thermal currents would have made bird flight a daily spectacle. Could a craftsman have studied vultures riding the wind and attempted to replicate their mechanics in wood? There's precedent for this kind of experimentation. The ancient world brimmed with inventors. Archimedes designed war machines, Hero of Alexandria built steam-powered devices. Why not an early aviation pioneer? Yet the most tantalizing clue lies in the bird's missing piece. A small hole at the base of its tail hints that it might have once held a rudder or stabilizer, a feature absent in decorative objects but critical for controlled flight. Replicas fitted with a tail fin exhibit even more impressive glide performance, fueling speculation that the Sakara bird wasn't just a static model but a testbed for larger concepts. What makes this artifact so provocative isn't just its design, it's the questions it forces us to confront. If this was an attempt at flight, how far did that knowledge spread? Were there other, more advanced prototypes lost to time? The Sakara bird doesn't offer easy answers, but it challenges the narrative that human flight began with the Wright brothers. Perhaps the dream of soaring through the air is far older than we ever imagined, carved into wood by hands that dared to reach beyond the earth. And so, this unassuming figurine sits at the crossroads of ritual and science, a reminder that ancient innovation often wore many faces. Whether it was a sacred symbol, a child's plaything, or a blueprint for the skies, one thing is clear: the Sakara bird refuses to be pigeonholed. It's a whisper from the past, urging us to reconsider where and when the story of human ingenuity truly began. Buried inside a lump of hardened clay and rock in 1961, the COSO artifact looked like nothing more than a peculiar geological oddity until its discoverers cracked it open. Inside the geode, they found an object that defied explanation: a cylindrical metal rod encased in a ceramic shell, with a rusted copper core that bore an uncanny resemblance to a modern spark plug. But here's the catch: the geode's outer layers suggested it had been forming for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. So how could a mechanical object end up sealed inside ancient stone? The mystery deepens when you examine the artifact's design. The central rod's hexagonal shape implies it was machined, not naturally formed, and the ceramic casing around it resembles an insulator, exactly the kind of material you'd use to contain electrical currents. Even the copper corrosion patterns hint at exposure to some kind of energy flow. To some researchers, this isn't just a random mineral formation. It's a piece of advanced technology frozen in time. But if that's true, who made it and when? Dating the artifact has sparked fierce debate. Geologists initially estimated the surrounding rock to be 500,000 years old, which would place the object impossibly ahead of human technological development. Skeptics argue the dating methods were flawed. Perhaps the geode formed much later, or the artifact was somehow pushed into pre-existing stone. Yet even if it's only a few thousand years old, the COSO artifact raises unsettling questions. Could it be a remnant of a lost civilization that mastered engineering principles we thought were modern inventions? Or might it be something even stranger, a piece of futuristic tech that somehow slipped backward in time? Theories abound, from the plausible to the fringe. Some suggest it's a fragment of an ancient energy device, evidence that prehistoric cultures harnessed electricity long before Faraday or Tesla. Others propose it's a relic from a highly advanced but now vanished society, like the mythical Atlantis or a forgotten precursor civilization. Then there's the more mundane explanation, that it's simply a 20th century spark plug encased in a concretion of minerals, misdated by overzealous researchers. But even this doesn't fully explain the artifact's peculiar composition or the oddities in its structure. What makes the COSO artifact so compelling isn't just its mysterious origin, it's the way it challenges our assumptions about technological progress. We tend to think of innovation as a straight line from simple tools to complex machines, but artifacts like this suggest the line might be a circle or a spiral, with knowledge lost and rediscovered across millennia. Whether it's a misidentified modern object or a genuine archaeological anomaly, one thing is certain: the COSO artifact refuses to fit neatly into history's timeline. And that's precisely why it captivates us. It's a puzzle with no clear solution, a whisper from the past that still rattles the foundations of what we think we know. High in the remote mountains of China's Bayan Ha Range, a set of peculiar stone discs has fueled speculation for decades, the so-called Dropa stones. Discovered in 1938 by archaeologist Kai Pute, these flat, circular artifacts seemed unremarkable at first glance, until someone noticed the intricate spiral grooves running from their centers outward, like the grooves of a vinyl record. Local legends claimed they were relics left by ancient visitors, while mainstream archaeology dismissed them as simple tribal ornaments or ritual objects. But what if the truth lies somewhere in between? The mystery deepens when you examine the stone's alleged inscriptions. Tiny hieroglyphic-like markings line the grooves, so small they're nearly invisible to the naked eye. According to controversial claims from the mid-20th century, researchers managed to translate these symbols, revealing an astonishing story. The stones supposedly document the crash landing of an alien spacecraft 12,000 years ago and the subsequent struggle of its occupants, the Dropa people, to survive in the harsh mountain terrain. If true, these wouldn't be mere artifacts. They'd be the first extraterrestrial history books. But here's where skepticism takes hold. No independent studies have verified these translations, and the original stones, if they ever existed, have vanished from public view. Some argue the entire story was an elaborate hoax, a Cold War-era fabrication mixing UFO lore with exoticized depictions of Tibetan cultures. Yet even as myth, the Dropa stones raise a fascinating question. Why would spiral-grooved discs provoke such wild theories in the first place? The answer might lie in their uncanny resemblance to modern data storage. In a world where we encode information on hard drives and CDs, it's easy to project our own technology onto the past. But consider this: spirals are one of nature's most universal patterns, appearing in everything from galaxies to seashells. Ancient cultures worldwide used them in art and symbolism. The Maori's Koru, the Celtic Triskelion, the labyrinths of Crete. Could the Dropa stones be part of this tradition, encoding knowledge not as literal text but as geometric metaphor? Then there's the material itself. Some reports describe the stones as containing high levels of cobalt and other metals, unusual for simple ceremonial objects. Could they have served a practical function like primitive batteries or resonators? We know the Nazca used mineral-coated stones to mark underground water sources, and the ancient Egyptians embedded conductive metals in temple walls for reasons still debated. Maybe the Dropa stones weren't alien messages, but tools harnessing natural energies we've yet to understand. What keeps the debate alive is the lack of definitive evidence. Without the original artifacts or rigorous testing, the stones exist in a limbo between fact and folklore. But their enduring appeal speaks to something deeper, our fascination with the idea that ancient peoples might have possessed knowledge lost to time. Whether the Dropa stones are hoaxes, ritual objects, or something stranger, they challenge us to keep questioning the boundaries of history. After all, every myth contains a kernel of truth, and sometimes, the most outlandish stories point us toward discoveries we never saw coming. In a quiet corner of the Gold Museum in Bogota, a collection of tiny gold figurines sits behind glass, each one no larger than a thumb, crafted by the Quimbayre civilization over 1,000 years ago. At first glance, they might pass for stylized birds or insects, their wings swept back in graceful curves, but tilt them just right and the resemblance becomes uncanny. Delta wings, vertical stabilizers, even what look like cockpit canopies. These aren't just decorative trinkets, they're eerily precise models of aircraft, centuries before the Wright brothers left the ground. When engineers subjected the Quimbayre artifacts to aerodynamic testing, the results were startling. Scaled-up replicas, when placed in wind tunnels, exhibited stable flight characteristics, some even outperforming modern glider designs. The wings' angles, the weight distribution, the symmetry, every detail suggests an understanding of principles like lift and drag that shouldn't have existed in pre-Columbian South America. So how did artisans working without wind tunnels or blueprints create objects that seem to defy their era's technological limits? One theory points to nature as the inspiration. The Quimbayre lived in a region teeming with hummingbirds, dragonflies, and other agile flyers. Could these figurines be exaggerated interpretations of biological forms, their features amplified into shapes that coincidentally resembled jets? It's possible, but then there's the precision. The figurines' tails aren't just decorative, they're positioned exactly where a modern engineer would place vertical stabilizers to prevent spins. The wings aren't random, they're airfoil-shaped, optimized for smooth airflow. Coincidence can't easily explain that level of functional detail. Another possibility. The Quimbayre witnessed something extraordinary. Ancient astronaut theorists speculate the figurines depict real flying machines, either human-made or, more controversially, extraterrestrial. But there's a simpler, if no less astonishing, alternative, that the Quimbayre or their predecessors experimented with flight themselves. After all, cultures worldwide have myths of flying contraptions, from the Indian Vimanas to Daedalus's wings. Could some of these stories have roots in actual, if rudimentary, aviation attempts? The mystery deepens when you consider the context. The Quimbayre were master metallurgists, producing gold alloys of astounding purity. Their lost wax casting techniques allowed for intricate detail perfect for refining aerodynamic shapes through trial and error. Perhaps these figurines weren't just ritual objects, but scaled-down prototypes, testing designs for larger, functional craft. Imagine a civilization mapping the skies not just in myth, but in metal. Yet the truth may be even more nuanced. In many indigenous cosmologies, the line between literal and symbolic isn't as rigid as modern science assumes. A Quimbayre shaman might have seen no contradiction in crafting a bird that embodied both spiritual flight and physical principles. The figurines could be metaphors made solid objects meant to channel the essence of movement and freedom, their forms honed by observation as much as intuition. What makes the Quimbayre artifacts so compelling isn't just their resemblance to modern technology, it's what they reveal about human creativity. Whether they're evidence of lost knowledge, inspired guesses, or something in between, they challenge us to rethink the boundaries of ancient innovation. Every curve, every angle whispers the same tantalizing question: how much of the past have we underestimated, and how many more of these puzzles are waiting to be lifted from the earth? Tucked away in Yale University's rare book collection lies what many call the world's most mysterious manuscript, the Voinish. Named after the Polish bookseller who acquired it in 1912, this 200-page parchment is a labyrinth of the bizarre, pages filled with looping, alien script no one has ever deciphered, alongside illustrations of plants that don't resemble any known species, celestial charts with unrecognizable constellations, and nude women bathing in what looks like interconnected pools of green liquid. For centuries, scholars dismissed it as an elaborate hoax or a madman's ramblings. But what if it's neither? Recent breakthroughs in computational linguistics have revealed something startling: the text isn't random gibberish. Statistical analyses show patterns consistent with a genuine language, complete with syntax and structure. The words follow Zipf's law, a linguistic principle observed in all human languages where certain terms appear with predictable frequency. This suggests the manuscript isn't a forgery but a carefully composed work, possibly encoding advanced knowledge its creator wanted to protect or conceal. So why has it resisted decoding for over 600 years? One compelling theory points to the illustrations. Unlike typical medieval herbals, which depict plants with symbolic or religious motifs, the Voynish's botanical drawings are eerily precise, yet they match no known flora. Some researchers propose their cryptographic representations, visual puzzles hiding scientific data behind stylized forms. The roots might diagram chemical compounds, the leaves mathematical symbols. Even the astrological charts could map celestial events encrypted as allegory. Imagine an alchemist or early scientist recording discoveries too radical for their time, disguising them as a fantastical herbal to avoid persecution. Then there's the script itself. Carbon dated to the early 15th century, the writing system has no clear parallels. Some symbols resemble shorthand Latin, others alchemical notation. A team at the University of Alberta used artificial intelligence to analyze the text, and the algorithm suggested it might be encoded Hebrew, but even that lead remains unverified. The most tantalizing clue, marginalia added by a later owner, a note in clumsy Latin that translates to, "I gave this to the emperor for 600 ducats." Was this manuscript once prized as a treasure, its contents deemed valuable enough to trade for a small fortune? What makes the Voinish so captivating isn't just its unreadable text, it's the questions it forces us to confront. Was its author a lone genius working centuries ahead of their time, or part of a forgotten intellectual tradition? Could the manuscript preserve knowledge lost during the upheavals of the Renaissance or Inquisition? Every attempt to crack its code peels back another layer of mystery, reminding us that history's most enduring puzzles aren't just about what we know, but what we've yet to discover. And so the Voinish sits silent and defiant, its secrets locked behind ink and vellum. Whether it's an elaborate cipher, an extinct language, or something stranger still, one thing is certain: this isn't just a book. It's a mirror reflecting our own relentless curiosity and the humbling truth that some answers remain just beyond our grasp. Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, scattered across the Dikwi's delta like marbles dropped by giants, lie the mysterious stone spheres of the ancient Kyraqui people. Ranging in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter, some weighing as much as 16 tons, these perfectly round artifacts have baffled archaeologists since their rediscovery in the 1930s. At first glance, they seemed like nothing more than boundary markers or sacred symbols until researchers measured them with modern tools and realized their geometry was flawless. We're not talking roughly spherical. These stones deviate from perfect roundness by less than 2 millimeters, a precision that rivals machine-cut ball bearings. How did a pre-Columbian culture without metal tools or written records achieve such mathematical perfection? The answer lies in their construction. Each sphere was carved from gabbro, a hard volcanic rock, using smaller stones as grinding tools, a process that would have taken generations of meticulous labor. But here's the astonishing part. The Kyraqui didn't just shape them by guesswork. Microscopic analysis reveals consistent patterns in the pecking marks, suggesting they used a system of measurement and control, possibly involving plumb lines or wooden frames to check curvature. This wasn't crude craftsmanship. It was proto-engineering, a fusion of art and geometry that defies stereotypes about so-called primitive societies. Yet the real mystery isn't how they were made, it's why. Some spheres were found arranged in straight lines or geometric patterns, leading to theories they were astronomical markers, aligning with solstice sunrises or key stars. Others speculate they represented celestial bodies in a physical model of the cosmos, a three-dimensional map of the heavens, but the most compelling clue comes from their original context. Many were placed near burial sites or atop mounds, hinting at a funerary or ceremonial role. Imagine standing in a clearing centuries ago, surrounded by these gleaming orbs, each one reflecting sunlight like miniature planets, a ritual space where earth and sky symbolism merged. What makes the spheres so haunting is their silence. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or the Voynich Manuscript, they bear no inscriptions, no obvious clues to their purpose. But their very perfection speaks volumes. In a world without standardized units of measurement, the Kyraqui achieved near-industrial precision through sheer skill and patience. Perhaps that's their true legacy, not as ritual objects or tools, but as testaments to human ingenuity's boundless potential. Every smooth curve whispers the same timeless truth, that curiosity and craftsmanship can shape stone into something timeless. And that, in itself, might be the most profound ritual of all. Stretching across nearly 200 square miles of Peru's arid Nazca Desert, a vast gallery of ancient art lies etched into the earth so massive it can only be fully appreciated from the sky. These are the Nazca Lines, colossal geoglyphs depicting spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, and geometric shapes so precise they seem to defy their prehistoric origins. For decades, archaeologists assumed they were purely ritualistic sacred pathways for ceremonial processions or offerings to the gods. But when researchers began mapping their alignments, a startling pattern emerged. Many of the lines point directly to solstice sunrises, lunar standstills, or key constellations visible in the ancient night sky. This wasn't just art, it was a sprawling, open-air observatory, engineered with mathematical precision. Take the famous hummingbird glyph. Its elongated beak doesn't just face a random direction, it aligns with the winter solstice sunrise, a critical marker for agricultural cycles in a region where water was scarce. The spider, another iconic figure, mirrors the shape of the Orion constellation, which the Nazca associated with rainfall. Even the straight lines, often dismissed as processional paths, correspond to celestial events. Some run parallel to the Milky Way's position during the rainy season, while others frame the rising points of bright stars like Sirius. The sheer scale of this coordination suggests the Nazca didn't just observe the heavens, they projected them onto the landscape, turning the desert into a living star chart. But how did a culture without aerial vantage points or written records achieve such accuracy? The answer lies in their ingenious surveying techniques. Archaeologists have uncovered wooden stakes and rope fragments at the sites, evidence of a simple but effective method. By driving stakes into the ground and using taut ropes as guides, the Nazca could scale up small models into gigantic designs with minimal error. They even accounted for curvature by building small mounds at key points, early contour lines, ensuring the shapes remained proportional across miles. This blend of artistry and engineering hints at a society deeply attuned to both aesthetics and astronomy, where every line served a dual purpose, reverence and calculation. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider the line's potential as navigation aids. The Nazca inhabited one of the driest places on Earth, where landmarks were scarce. Some researchers propose the geoglyphs functioned as a kind of prehistoric GPS, guiding travelers or traders across the featureless terrain. Certain straight lines lead directly to water sources or fertile valleys, while clusters of spirals might have marked underground aquifers. Imagine walking the desert at night, following a star-aligned path illuminated by moonlight, your route charted centuries earlier in earth and stone. What makes the Nazca Lines so extraordinary isn't just their size or precision, it's the way they dissolve the boundary between science and spirituality. To modern eyes, astronomy and religion seem separate pursuits, but for the Nazca, tracking celestial movements wasn't just about survival, it was a sacred dialogue with the cosmos. Every glyph, every alignment was both a prayer and an equation, a testament to human curiosity's timeless dance with the unknown. And perhaps that's their most enduring lesson, that the drive to understand the universe has always been, at its heart, a profoundly human act of wonder. For centuries, the Great Pyramid of Giza stood as the ultimate symbol of ancient mystery, a tomb so grand it seemed to transcend its own purpose. But what if the pyramid's true secrets lie not in its known chambers, but in the spaces we've yet to explore? Recent scans using cosmic ray imaging and ground-penetrating radar have revealed something astonishing. A network of hidden passages and voids, some with dimensions so precise they defy coincidence. These aren't rough-hewn tunnels or accidental gaps. They're architectural enigmas designed with a level of mathematical sophistication that challenges everything we thought we knew about the pyramid's function. Take the so-called Big Void, a cavernous space detected above the Grand Gallery in 2017. Stretching nearly 100 feet long, its floor aligns perfectly with the pyramid's central axis, a feature too deliberate to dismiss as structural filler. Even more intriguing, its orientation mirrors key celestial markers. During the summer solstice, the setting sun casts a shadow that aligns with the void's projected position, suggesting it might have served as a kind of astronomical timekeeper. Could these hidden spaces be part of an ancient star map, encoding celestial knowledge in stone? Then there's the theory of energy harnessing. Some researchers point to the pyramid's unusual electromagnetic properties. The materials used, limestone, granite, and traces of quartz, are known to conduct and amplify certain frequencies. Experiments have shown that the pyramid's shape itself can focus electromagnetic waves into its internal chambers, leading to speculation that these hidden voids might have functioned as resonance chambers, amplifying sound or even wireless energy. It sounds like science fiction, but consider this. The granite sarcophagus in the king's chamber vibrates at the same frequency as the Earth's natural resonance, a phenomenon only measured with modern instruments. Was this intentional? The pyramid's construction only deepens the puzzle. Each block was placed with millimeter precision, creating airtight joints without mortar. The hidden chambers follow the same exacting standards, their angles matching sacred geometry ratios found in nature from the golden ratio to pi. This isn't just ritual symbolism, it's applied mathematics on a monumental scale. Even the air shafts, once thought to be purely symbolic star paths, have been shown to align with specific constellations as they appeared 4,500 years ago, acting as celestial sightlines frozen in time. Yet the most tantalizing question remains: why conceal these features? If the pyramid was meant to impress, why hide its most sophisticated engineering? One compelling theory suggests these spaces weren't meant for the living, or even the dead, but for something beyond our current understanding. Perhaps they housed advanced tools, now lost, or served as initiation chambers for mysteries we can only guess at. Every new scan peels back another layer, revealing not just empty spaces, but a blueprint for a technology we're still struggling to comprehend. The Great Pyramid refuses to be categorized. It's not just a tomb, not just an observatory, not just an energy device. It's all these things and more. With each discovery, the line between ancient ritual and cutting-edge science blurs further, reminding us that the past holds more surprises than we ever imagined. And as long as those hidden chambers whisper their secrets, the pyramid will keep challenging us to rethink what's possible. Standing sentinel in the humid jungles of Mexico's Gulf Coast, the Olmec colossal heads are more than just sculptures, they're monuments to a mystery. Carved from single blocks of volcanic basalt, some weighing over 20 tons, these massive stone faces were long assumed to depict rulers or deities, their stern expressions frozen in time. But look closer and the details defy easy explanation. Each head is unique, with distinct facial features, headdresses, and even ear ornaments, suggesting they portray real individuals with startling realism. Yet it's not just the artistry that captivates, it's the logistics. How did a civilization without wheels, draft animals, or metal tools quarry, transport, and carve stone on such an unimaginable scale? The answer lies in the Olmec's forgotten engineering prowess. The basalt used for the heads came from the Tuxtla Mountains, quarried from sheer rock faces using nothing but stone tools and brute force. But the real marvel is how they moved these gargantuan blocks across 60 miles of swamps, rivers, and dense forest. Researchers believe the Olmec used a combination of rollers, sledges, and manpower, thousands of laborers pulling ropes in unison, guided by log roads and possibly even floating the stones on rafts during floods. This wasn't just hard labor, it was a feat of coordinated physics, requiring an intimate understanding of weight distribution, friction, and leverage. Imagine the scene: teams chanting in rhythm, logs shifting under colossal weight, the slow, deliberate dance of stone across a landscape that resisted every step. Even more intriguing are the head's precise proportions. Despite their massive size, the facial symmetry is near flawless, with balanced features that suggest the Olmec employed standardized measurement systems. Some theorists propose they used grids or string markers to map out proportions before carving, a technique echoing later Maya and Aztec practices. But here's the twist: the basalt's hardness made it incredibly difficult to shape without metal chisels. The Olmec likely relied on harder stones like jadate to etch details, a painstaking process that could take generations for a single head. This level of precision wasn't just artistic, it was mathematical, a silent testament to a culture that valued both beauty and exactitude. What truly sets these sculptures apart, though, is what they represent. Unlike the pyramids or temples of other civilizations, the heads weren't built to honor gods or commemorate victories. They seem intensely personal, almost biographical. The varied headdresses might signify roles: warrior, priest, or ball player, while the subtle differences in facial structure hint at individual identities. Were they portraits of revered leaders or perhaps ancestors watching over the living? The Olmec left no written records to explain, leaving us to piece together their purpose from fragments. Yet perhaps the greatest mystery isn't how the Olmec made the heads, but why they stopped. After centuries of production, the practice abruptly ended, and many heads were deliberately buried or defaced. Was it revolution, invasion, or a cultural shift? We may never know, but these silent stone giants endure, their unblinking gaze a challenge to our assumptions about the past. They remind us that history's most enduring puzzles aren't just about lost techniques, they're about the people who mastered them, and the stories they chose to carve in stone. Buried in the dusty archives of Mesopotamian archaeology, the Yubaid Lizardmen stand as one of history's most perplexing artistic anomalies. Discovered in ancient settlements dating back to the 5th millennium BCE, these clay figurines depict humanoid figures with elongated heads, almond-shaped eyes, and unmistakably reptilian features: slit pupils, scaled skin, and even postures that suggest a crouching, almost predatory stance. For decades, scholars dismissed them as mythical beings, symbolic representations of water deities or chimeras from forgotten folklore. But the more you examine their craftsmanship, the harder it becomes to dismiss them as mere imagination. The anatomical precision is uncanny. The way the spines curve, the subtle texture of the scales, the proportions of the limbs, all hint at an intimate familiarity with reptilian physiology. So why would a culture that revered bulls and lions sculpt figures that look like human-lizard hybrids? One theory points to the Yubaid people's environment. Southern Mesopotamia was a land of marshes and waterways teeming with reptiles. Frogs, turtles, and water snakes were not just part of the ecosystem. They were vital to survival, appearing in daily life as both predators and prey. Could the figurines be an artistic homage to these creatures, exaggerated into human form to symbolize their power? Some researchers suggest the lizard-like features represent shamanic transformation, a visual metaphor for spiritual rebirth or connection to the natural world. After all, many cultures associate reptiles with regeneration due to their ability to shed skin. Then there's the more provocative interpretation that the Yubaid lizardmen depict something or someone far more literal. The figures' postures are strikingly dynamic, unlike the static, ceremonial poses of most ancient figurines. Some cradle infants against their chests, while others grip what appear to be tools or weapons. Their postures suggest action, even individuality. Were they modeled after real figures in Yubaid society, perhaps rulers or deities believed to possess reptilian traits? Or could they hint at early medical knowledge, symbolizing congenital conditions or genetic mutations that altered physical appearance? The mystery deepens when you consider the context. These figurines weren't isolated curiosities. They were mass-produced, found in homes, graves, and ritual sites across the Yubaid cultural sphere. Their ubiquity suggests they held a significance beyond mere decoration. Some were even painted with bitumen, a tar-like substance that would have given them a glossy, almost living sheen, an eerie effect when paired with those unblinking, slit-pupilled eyes. What makes the Yubaid lizardmen so haunting isn't just their strangeness, it's the questions they force us to confront about ancient perception. Were they metaphors, deities, or something else entirely? In a world where the line between myth and reality blurred daily, perhaps the answer lies not in choosing one explanation, but in embracing the ambiguity. These figures remind us that the past never fits neatly into our categories, and sometimes the most enduring mysteries are the ones that refuse to be solved. The Piri Rise map isn't just an artifact, it's a time capsule of forgotten knowledge, a puzzle that defies the boundaries of history. Drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Rise, this fragment of a larger world map shows something impossible: the coastline of Antarctica, a continent that wouldn't be officially discovered for another 300 years. But here's what makes it truly inexplicable: the landmass is depicted without its modern ice sheet, as it would have appeared thousands of years earlier. How could a 16th-century navigator, working with the limited tools of his era, chart a continent buried under miles of ice, one he could never have seen or sailed to? The map's secrets lie in its own inscriptions. Piri Rise openly credits earlier sources, including Ptolemaic charts, Portuguese navigational records, and most intriguingly, what he calls ancient maps from the time of Alexander the Great. This raises a staggering possibility that the map isn't an original creation, but a compilation of far older geographical data, passed down through centuries and somehow preserving details lost to mainstream history. Modern comparisons reveal eerie accuracy in the map's rendering of Antarctica's subglacial topography, particularly the Queen Maud Land region. The contours align so closely with modern sonar surveys that coincidence seems unlikely. Someone somewhere had knowledge of Antarctica's true shape long before the Ice Age obscured it. But who? One theory points to a hypothetical ancient seafaring civilization, perhaps the same culture that inspired Plato's Atlantis myth. Proponents argue that only a global maritime network could have surveyed Antarctica's coastline before the ice engulfed it, leaving fragments of their cartography to resurface millennia later. Others suggest medieval Arab or Chinese explorers might have ventured farther south than recorded, tapping into now lost indigenous knowledge. There's even a fringe hypothesis involving extraterrestrial influence, though mainstream scholars dismiss it for lack of evidence. The map's precision isn't its only enigma. Piri Rise included detailed notes about the climate and wildlife of these distant lands, describing giant serpents and burning hot regions near the poles, details that clash with Antarctica's reality, but might reflect garbled accounts of prehistoric conditions. Could these be distorted memories of a time when Antarctica was still transitioning to its frozen state? Or perhaps misinterpretations of entirely different lands, merged into a single, confused depiction? Skeptics offer a more grounded explanation: that the southern landmass on the map isn't Antarctica at all, but a distorted composite of South America, Africa, and speculative geography. They point to the era's common practice of filling blank spaces with guesswork, blending myth and measurement. Yet even this doesn't fully account for the uncanny match between the map's outlines and Antarctica's hidden bedrock. What makes the Piri Rise map so compelling isn't just its mysteries, it's what it reveals about the fragility of human knowledge. For all our confidence in historical progress, this artifact whispers of entire chapters lost to time, of sophisticated understanding that vanished without a trace. Whether it's a miraculous preservation of ancient science or a cartographic fluke, one thing is certain: the map forces us to confront how much of the past remains just beyond our grasp, waiting to be rediscovered. Deep beneath the rolling hills of Zhejiang province in China, a network of caverns known as the Longyu Caves hides a secret that defies conventional archaeology. Discovered in 1992 by a curious villager draining a local pond, these vast man-made chambers were initially dismissed as ancient burial sites until researchers stepped inside and realized the staggering precision of their construction. The walls, ceilings, and pillars are carved with such geometric perfection that even modern engineers struggle to explain how they were achieved without advanced tools. Every surface angles at exactly 90 degrees, intersecting in razor-sharp edges that run flawlessly for hundreds of feet. But it's not just the visual symmetry that baffles experts, it's the way sound behaves inside these spaces. Standing in the center of one of the larger chambers, a single clap or spoken word reverberates with uncanny clarity, the acoustics amplifying and distorting sound in ways that feel almost intentional. Some researchers believe the caves might have functioned as a kind of ancient concert hall or ritual space, where specific frequencies could induce trance states or enhance ceremonies. Others point to the wall's unusual mineral composition, layers of dense, conductive stone that hint at possible energy storage properties. Could these caverns have been designed to harness or amplify natural earth energies like a prehistoric battery? The theory isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. Similar resonant chambers exist in ancient sites worldwide, from the oracle rooms of Delphi to the subterranean tunnels beneath the pyramids. Then there's the mystery of their construction. The caves span over 30,000 square meters, with pillars strategically placed to support the ceilings, a feat that would have required removing nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone. Yet no tools, debris, or even records of this colossal project have ever been found. The walls bear uniform chisel marks, suggesting a coordinated effort involving hundreds of laborers. But how did they illuminate such deep spaces? Traditional torches would have left soot stains, yet the walls are pristine. Some speculate they used polished mirrors to reflect sunlight deep underground, or perhaps bioluminescent materials lost to time. The most haunting question, though, is why, unlike tombs or temples, the Longyu caves lack inscriptions, artifacts, or any clear signs of habitation. Their sheer scale implies a purpose beyond mere storage or shelter. Were they a hidden refuge, a clandestine meeting place, or something more esoteric, a site where ancient people sought to commune with forces we no longer understand? Every unanswered detail whispers the same unsettling possibility, that these caverns are the work of a civilization far more advanced and far more mysterious than history books have ever acknowledged. Standing silently on the windswept slopes of Easter Island, the Moai gaze inland with an air of quiet mystery. These towering stone figures, some weighing as much as 80 tons, were long thought to be little more than religious idols, carved representations of deified ancestors watching over the living. But beneath their solemn expressions lies a story of extraordinary engineering, a testament to human ingenuity that defies the island's isolation. How did a society with no wheels, no metal tools, and no large animals manage to quarry, transport, and erect nearly 900 of these colossal statues across miles of rugged terrain? The answer begins in the volcanic quarry of Rano Raraku, where the Moai were carved directly from the soft, tough stone. Each statue was meticulously chiseled using nothing but basalt hand tools, their features growing more defined as they emerged from the rock. But the real marvel comes after they were freed from the earth. Researchers once assumed the statues were dragged horizontally on log rollers, a theory that seemed plausible until experiments revealed a fatal flaw. The Moai's weight would have crushed the island's limited palm forests within decades, yet evidence shows the statues were moved for centuries. Then came the breakthrough. Oral traditions spoke of the statues walking to their platforms. This poetic description might hold a kernel of scientific truth. Archaeologists now believe the Rapa Nui people used a clever combination of ropes and strategic rocking motions to walk the Moai upright, pivoting them side to side in a controlled shuffle. Teams of workers would have pulled forward on one side while others stabilized the base, inching the statues forward with each rhythmic tilt. The method isn't just theoretical. Modern reconstructions have successfully moved multi-ton replicas this way, proving it's not only possible but remarkably efficient. Imagine the scene, crews chanting in unison, the statue swaying like a metronome, its center of gravity carefully balanced to prevent catastrophic falls. This wasn't brute force, it was physics mastered through trial and observation. Yet the Moai's journey didn't end with transportation. Placing them atop their ceremonial platforms, or ahu, required another layer of innovation. Some ahu slope inland, allowing the statues to be raised incrementally using lever systems and ramps, but the most astonishing detail lies beneath the surface. Excavations reveal that many ahu were built with precisely fitted stone foundations, engineered to absorb seismic shocks in an earthquake-prone region. The Rapa Nui didn't just move these giants, they anchored them against time itself. What makes the Moai so compelling isn't just their scale or their mystery, it's what they reveal about the society that created them. This wasn't a culture fixated solely on ritual, it was one that blended spiritual vision with mechanical brilliance. Each statue's journey from quarry to coast was a communal triumph, a dance of coordination and creativity. And perhaps that's their true legacy, not as silent sentinels of a lost religion, but as monuments to the boundless potential of human problem solving. Even in isolation, even with limited resources, the Rapa Nui found a way to make stone walk, and in doing so, they left a puzzle that still inspires awe centuries later. Rising from the dusty plains of southeastern Turkey, the towering limestone pillars of Göbekli Tepe stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten chapter of human history. When German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt first uncovered the site in the 1990s, he assumed he'd found a Neolithic burial ground until the sheer scale of the discovery became clear. This wasn't just a cemetery, it was a monumental complex of circular enclosures, each anchored by massive T-shaped pillars carved with intricate animal reliefs. What stunned researchers wasn't just the artistry, it was the timeline. Carbon dating revealed the site was constructed around 11,600 years ago, making it at least 6,000 years older than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid. This places its builders in a world before agriculture, before cities, before even the most basic pottery. So how did hunter-gatherers with no permanent settlements engineer such a feat? The pillars themselves hold the first clues. Standing up to 16 feet tall and weighing as much as 10 tons, they were quarried from nearby bedrock using nothing but stone tools, a process that would have required coordinated labor on an unprecedented scale. But it's their arrangement that truly defies expectations. The enclosures aren't randomly placed, they align with celestial events, their central pillars framing the sunrise during solstices and equinoxes. One particularly striking formation mirrors the constellation Cygnus as it would have appeared in the sky 11 millennia ago. This isn't just decorative symbolism, it's deliberate astronomy, encoded in stone by people who supposedly lack the means to track such precise cycles. Then there's the iconography. The pillars are adorned with bas-reliefs of foxes, scorpions, vultures, and other animals, some depicted in dynamic, almost narrative scenes. At first glance, these might seem like ritualistic imagery, but their placement suggests something more functional. Many creatures are carved near the tops of pillars, as if meant to be viewed from below against the backdrop of the sky. Some researchers propose they served as an early star atlas, mapping constellations or marking seasonal migrations of game. Others see them as a form of proto-writing, conveying complex information through symbolic shorthand. The most tantalizing question isn't just how Göbekli Tepe was built, it's why. Traditional archaeology assumes monumental architecture emerges only after settled farming, when surplus labor can be devoted to non-essential projects. But here, the opposite seems true. The site predates agriculture by millennia, suggesting it might have been the catalyst for civilization itself. Imagine bands of nomadic hunters converging seasonally to erect these pillars, their cooperation fostering the first inklings of communal living and resource management. Over generations, these gatherings could have spurred the domestication of crops and animals simply to feed the builders, turning ritual into revolution. Yet the site's ultimate purpose remains shrouded in mystery. Unlike later temples, Göbekli Tepe shows no evidence of habitation or burials. Its enclosures were deliberately buried around 8000 BCE, filled with thousands of tons of soil and debris in what appears to be a ceremonial act of closure. Were these spaces abandoned when their astronomical alignments drifted out of sync due to Earth's axial precession? Or did their builders intentionally seal them away, preserving knowledge for some distant future? Göbekli Tepe forces us to rewrite the story of human progress. This wasn't the work of primitive minds, it was a project of visionaries who carved their understanding of time, nature, and the cosmos into the very bones of the Earth. Every pillar, every alignment whispers the same humbling truth, that our ancestors were far more than simple survivors. They were astronomers, architects, and philosophers whose legacy still waits, half-buried, to be fully understood. High above the city of Cusco, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman looms with silent, almost otherworldly precision. Its zigzagging walls, built from stones so massive some weigh over 100 tons, fit together like an intricate three-dimensional puzzle. Each block carved with angles so exact, not even a razor blade can slip between them. For centuries, visitors assumed these were the work of the Inca, and in a way they were. But the deeper mystery lies in how they achieved such perfection without mortar, metal tools, or even a written language to record their methods. The real marvel isn't just the craftsmanship, it's the way these walls have shrugged off centuries of earthquakes that flattened modern buildings around them. Take a closer look at the stones themselves. Unlike the uniform bricks of later Spanish colonial architecture, each block is uniquely shaped, with as many as 12 different angles and curves. Some researchers call it polygonal masonry, but that term doesn't capture the sophistication at play. The stones aren't just stacked, they're keyed together, their interlocking forms distributing weight and stress like a natural shock absorber. During seismic activity, the walls don't resist movement. They accommodate it, shifting slightly before settling back into place. This isn't just advanced engineering, it's a dialogue with the Earth itself, a design philosophy that treats instability as something to dance with, not defy. How did the Inca, or perhaps their predecessors, develop such techniques? One theory points to the region's geology. The Andes are among the most seismically active mountains on Earth, and local builders would have witnessed countless structures crumble over generations. Trial and error might have led them to mimic nature's own resilience, like the way river stones nestle together to withstand currents. Another possibility is even more intriguing, that Sacsayhuaman's walls preserve knowledge from an older, lost civilization. Some of the largest stones show signs of vitrification, a glass-like surface finish that suggests exposure to extreme heat, possibly from some forgotten annealing process or even tools we've yet to rediscover. Then there's the question of logistics. How did workers transport these megaliths from quarries miles away, then lift them into place without pulleys or cranes? The Inca had no wheeled vehicles, yet they maneuvered stones weighing as much as small houses. Oral traditions speak of a plant-based liquid that softened rock, allowing it to be shaped like clay, a claim modern experiments have tentatively supported. When certain native plants are combined with acidic compounds, they can temporarily weaken stone surfaces, making them easier to carve. If true, this wasn't just construction, it was alchemy, blending botany and geology into something almost magical. But perhaps the most haunting detail is what Sacsayhuaman doesn't show us. Unlike the pyramids or Roman aqueducts, there are no blueprints, no tool fragments, no records of its construction. The knowledge was passed down through practice alone, a testament to the power of oral tradition and hands-on learning. Every perfectly fitted stone is a silent lesson in adaptability, a reminder that some technologies don't need to be written down to endure. They simply work quietly, brilliantly, waiting for us to decipher their secrets, and in a world increasingly reliant on brittle materials and fleeting digital codes, that's a legacy worth studying. In the heart of Delhi's Qutb complex, a towering iron pillar rises toward the sky, defying time in a way that still leaves scientists speechless. Standing over 23 feet tall and weighing more than 6 tons, this ancient monument has endured 1,600 monsoons, scorching summers, and the relentless passage of centuries, yet its surface remains eerily untouched by rust. For generations, historians assumed it was merely a ceremonial relic, a tribute to some forgotten king or deity. But when metallurgists finally analyzed its composition, they uncovered a secret that rewrote the history of ancient technology. The pillar isn't just iron, it's a masterclass in metallurgical alchemy. Modern tests reveal it contains an astonishingly high phosphorus content, nearly 1%, combined with minimal sulfur. This precise formula created a thin, protective layer of iron hydrogen phosphate on the surface, a natural shield against corrosion. To put that in perspective, even today's stainless steel relies on added chromium for similar protection, a technique developed millennia later. But here's the real puzzle. Ancient Indian smiths, working with little more than charcoal furnaces and hand bellows, somehow engineered this alloy without knowing the chemistry behind it. How? One theory points to the unique smelting methods described in ancient Sanskrit texts like the Arthashastra, which detailed processes for purifying metals using specific ores and fluxes. The pillar's creators might have stumbled upon the anti-corrosive properties of high phosphorus iron through trial and error, refining their techniques over generations. Another clue lies in the pillar's construction itself. Unlike later iron objects, which often corroded quickly, this monument was forged from a single, massive ingot, a feat requiring temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Celsius sustained for days. The slow cooling process likely allowed the protective phosphorus-rich layer to form organically, a happy accident of craftsmanship and patience, yet the pillar's resilience isn't its only mystery. Its inscriptions, carved in Brahmi script, hint at a deeper purpose. Dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu, it was originally erected in the 4th century CE near a sacred water tank, where the humid environment should have accelerated rust. Instead, the pillar's resistance only grew stronger, as if the metal itself had been blessed. Some researchers speculate the site's spiritual significance wasn't incidental, that the smiths who forged it might have imbued the metal with ritual significance, blending practical knowledge with sacred intention. What makes the iron pillar so extraordinary isn't just its defiance of decay, it's the way it bridges the gap between science and symbolism. In an age before microscopes or chemical equations, its creators achieved a technological marvel that modern engineers still struggle to replicate perfectly. Whether through divine inspiration or sheer ingenuity, they left behind a monument that refuses to fade, a silent testament to the untapped brilliance of the ancient world. And as long as it stands, it challenges us to reconsider what we think we know about the past and the secrets it might still be holding. Perched on the cliffs of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, the Cholum Observatory doesn't look like your typical temple. Its narrow windows and asymmetrical design hint at something far more calculated. For years, archaeologists assumed this was just another sacred space until they noticed something peculiar. The windows weren't placed randomly. Each one frames key positions of Venus in the night sky, aligning perfectly with the planet's most significant appearances: its first rise as the morning star, its disappearance, and its re-emergence as the evening star. This wasn't just architecture, it was a celestial calendar carved in stone, a testament to the Maya's extraordinary naked eye astronomy. What makes the observatory so remarkable is the precision behind its design. Without telescopes or modern instruments, the Maya tracked Venus's complex 584-day cycle with an error margin of just 2 hours, a feat that required generations of meticulous observation. The building's eastern window, for example, captures the exact spot where Venus first gleams above the horizon after its period of invisibility. Another window aligns with the summer solstice sunrise, while a third marks the equinoxes. These aren't just decorative features, they're functional tools, allowing priests or astronomers to predict celestial events with pinpoint accuracy. Imagine standing inside this chamber as dawn breaks, watching sunlight or starlight slice through a narrow aperture to illuminate a specific glyph or marker, a moment where architecture and cosmos became one. But why Venus? To the Maya, this planet wasn't just a celestial body. It was the god Kukulkan, a deity tied to war, agriculture, and the cycles of time. Its movements dictated when to plant crops, when to wage battles, even when to crown kings. The observatory's alignments would have served as a spiritual and practical guide, blending science with ritual in a way that feels almost alien to modern minds. The Maya didn't separate astronomy from daily life. They wove it into the very fabric of their civilization. The real genius of the Cholum Observatory lies in its adaptability. Unlike rigid stone circles or static monuments, its design accounts for subtle shifts in Venus's orbit over centuries. The window's angles aren't fixed, they're staggered, as if anticipating the need to adjust for long-term celestial drift. This level of foresight suggests the Maya didn't just record the heavens, they understood their patterns well enough to future-proof their observations. Yet the building guards its secrets closely. No written records survive to explain its exact use, leaving us to piece together its purpose from alignments and artifacts. Some theories suggest it doubled as a navigational aid for Mayan sailors, its cliff-top position serving as a lighthouse for ships guided by the stars. Others propose it was a classroom where initiates learned to read the sky's rhythms. Whatever its full story, the Cholum Observatory stands as a silent challenge to our assumptions about ancient technology. It reminds us that precision doesn't require microchips, just patience, curiosity, and an unbroken gaze fixed on the stars. Beneath the crystal-clear waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island, a massive stone formation rises from the ocean floor like a phantom from another age. At first glance, the Yonaguni monument could pass for a natural rock formation until you notice the sharp, 90-degree angles, the perfectly flat terraces, and the symmetrical staircases that seem carved by human hands. Discovered in the mid-80s by a diver searching for hammerhead sharks, this sprawling underwater structure stretches over 200 feet long, with features so precise they've ignited a firestorm of debate. Is this the ruins of a sunken city, swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago, or just an incredible quirk of geology? The case for human design hinges on details that defy natural explanation. The monument's main terrace, known as the Turtle Platform, boasts edges so straight they resemble the precision-cut stones of Machu Picchu. Nearby, two massive pillars stand like sentinels, their surfaces marked by what appear to be tool marks. Even more compelling is a trench running along the base, its walls forming a near-perfect right angle, a feature almost unheard of in natural sandstone formations. Marine geologists who have studied the site point to these anomalies, arguing that the combination of geometric shapes and repetitive patterns suggests intentional craftsmanship. Yet skeptics counter with the power of water and time. They argue that the strong currents surrounding Yonaguni, combined with seismic activity, could have fractured the sedimentary rock into seemingly artificial shapes. The region sits in an earthquake-prone zone where tectonic shifts regularly sculpt the seabed into dramatic cliffs and plateaus. Some researchers propose that the monument's steps are simply the result of layered rock shearing apart along natural fault lines, creating the illusion of human design. Even the so-called tool marks could be the work of relentless ocean currents scouring the stone over millennia. But here's where the plot thickens. Nearby, divers have uncovered what look like carved channels, circular depressions, and even a humanoid face etched into the rock, features far harder to dismiss as random erosion. Adding fuel to the mystery, similar submerged structures have been found elsewhere in the Pacific, from Okinawa to Taiwan, hinting at the possibility of a broader, forgotten maritime culture. Could Yonaguni be part of a network of ancient coastal sites, now lost beneath the waves? The most tantalizing clue might lie in the timeline. If human-made, the monument would have to date back to a time when sea levels were low enough to expose the site, placing its construction at least 10,000 years ago, long before conventional history says such advanced stonework was possible. This aligns with fringe theories about lost civilizations like Mu or Lemuria, though mainstream archaeology remains skeptical. Yet even without invoking myths, the monument challenges our understanding of prehistoric societies. What if coastal cultures devastated by rising seas at the end of the last ice age left behind traces we're only now discovering? Standing at the crossroads of geology and archaeology, Yonaguni refuses to surrender its secrets easily. Whether it's a natural masterpiece or the handiwork of an unknown ancient people, one thing is certain: it forces us to reconsider the depths of human history and how much of it might still be hidden, waiting beneath the waves. These 24 extraordinary artifacts don't just rewrite history, they shatter the very lens through which we view ancient civilizations. For too long, the narrative has painted our ancestors as purely ritualistic, their innovations dismissed as accidental or symbolic. But the evidence speaks louder than any assumption. These objects, whether tracking celestial movements with gearwork precision, conducting electricity, or encoding advanced mathematics, reveal a truth far more profound. Ancient minds didn't just ponder the mysteries of the universe, they dissected them with the rigor of scientists and the vision of engineers. Consider the sheer breadth of their achievements. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't just a curiosity, it was a cosmic calculator, its bronze gears mirroring the orbits of planets with near-modern accuracy. The Baghdad Battery, whether used for electroplating or some other purpose, proves that experimentation with energy wasn't a modern revelation. Even the Nebra Sky Disk, with its gold inlays charting solstices and star clusters, demonstrates an observational sophistication that rivals today's planetarium software. These weren't isolated flukes, they were part of a tapestry of innovation woven across continents and millennia. What's most striking is how these artifacts blur the line between science and spirituality. The Inca's Sacsayhuaman Walls, earthquake-proofed through polygonal masonry, weren't just feats of engineering, they were acts of reverence, harmonizing with the Earth's tremors rather than resisting them. The Chalum Observatory, with its Venus-aligned windows, didn't just track a planet, it wove astronomy into the sacred, proving that for these cultures, understanding the cosmos was both a practical necessity and a divine pursuit. This duality forces us to reconsider the very definition of technology. Perhaps our modern separation of science and ritual is the anomaly, not the norm. Yet for every artifact we've decoded, countless others remain enigmas. The Voynich manuscript's undeciphered script, the Yonaguni monument's submerged geometry, the Yubaid lizardmen's uncanny anatomy, each one taunts us with unanswered questions. How many more of these marvels lie buried in museum vaults or beneath desert sands, mislabeled as mundane relics? The irony is palpable. Our own biases may be the very obstacle to uncovering their truths. This isn't just about rewriting textbooks, it's about humility. These discoveries remind us that human ingenuity isn't linear. It's a spiral with knowledge lost, rediscovered, and reimagined across ages. The Baghdad Battery hints at forgotten electrochemistry, the Sakara bird at early aerodynamics, the Longyu caves at acoustic engineering we've yet to fully grasp. What if our modern breakthroughs are merely echoes of ancient wisdom waiting to be heard anew? So where do we go from here? The next chapter of this story isn't etched in stone or buried in a shipwreck, it's in our hands. Every reassessment of an old artifact, every application of new technology to study the past, brings us closer to these lost masterminds. Perhaps the greatest lesson they left isn't in their devices, but in their example. That curiosity, patience, and respect for the unknown are the truest tools of discovery. Now it's your turn. Which of these artifacts resonates most with you? Are there other overlooked objects you suspect hide deeper secrets? The conversation doesn't end here, it's just beginning. Dive into the comments, share your theories, and join us as we keep unearthing the astonishing legacy of those who came before. After all, history isn't a closed book. It's a living puzzle, and every piece we place changes the picture. What will we uncover?